Hi guys, it's Grace. I'm back again with another video to share more about my weight loss journey so that it can hopefully help some of you with yours. Okay, so today I want to talk a bit more about my food journey. And of course, I eat food every day, so I am still currently on my food journey and will be for the rest of my life. What I want to talk about is how I have gone about trying to make sure that my food choices are helping me towards my fat loss goals. And that might sound really simplistic, but what I have found is that I am the type of person who needs a structure and a plan to help me to know what to do and how to go about planning my food so that I can fully enjoy it, knowing that it's helping me towards my fat loss goals. When I was doing my research into the types of foods that I should be eating, remember I said that the research that I was doing, I was looking for science-backed ways of losing weight, ways that were going to be more likely to help me to lose weight for the long term. And through all that research that I did, what I found, and I really want to emphasize that in this video, I'm not trying to tell you how to eat. I'm simply just want to share how I have been eating on my weight loss journey. And if there are things about the way I eat and certain concepts that you see, such as the low calorie density and whole foods, that you think you might want to incorporate into your own weight loss journey, I encourage you to look at the information that I've left in the description box, but also to do your own research to see whether or not that is going to be something that is going to suit you. And also, I want to emphasize that I am not a health professional, so I cannot give you advice about how to change your eating habits based on your own health needs. That is something that you really should talk to your own health professional about. But I feel like the things that I'm going to be sharing with you are things that you can go and widely research by yourself. So as I say, this is me sharing how I have eaten and how I continue to eat on my weight loss journey, but it's not me telling you how you should eat. I really think it's important that each person should research for themselves what is going to be best for them and their circumstances. So, having said all that, I also want to say that it's important to bear in mind that when I first started my weight loss journey, I had been coming out of having some serious health related issues with my digestive system. And so a lot of the choices that I was making were not only about weight loss, they were also about seeking healing for my digestive system and for the health issues that I had been facing. So let me start off by saying that I wanted to eat as naturally as I possibly could, because from my research and just in general, I think most of us are aware that if you eat foods that are as close as possible to their original form, the way that they came forth from the earth, then those foods are likely to be full of nutrients and other things like fiber and water that are going to be beneficial to your body. So that was my starting place. There were two concepts that I was using when I was trying to decide the types of foods that I was going to eat. And those concepts were, I wanted the vast majority of my food to be whole foods, and I wanted them to be low calorie density. What I didn't explain is that how I had come to that decision was primarily through hearing about this way of eating that had been coined by a doctor called Dr. McDougall, called the Starch Solution. I'm not going to go too in depth into what the Starch Solution is in terms of what Dr. McDougall says, because he's a doctor and he's explained it fully himself. You can go ahead and Google his book and probably visit his website. It gives you more information about what the Starch Solution is. But essentially, what drew me to the Starch Solution was that, one, I know this sounds so strange, but it was one of the few ways of eating that I looked at that were helpful for weight loss, that was going to allow me to continue to eat bread. And I mean, that probably seems really trivial to some of you, but the reality is I was coming from a background of doing a lot of faddy diets, and I was also coming from a mindset that had got to a place where carbs, and especially things like bread, had been put on the bad food list. And I really wanted to get away from that. I really wanted to start eating in a way where I was eating foods that were wholesome and I knew were doing good to my body. And I felt like bread in its essence, although obviously there's so many types of bread, and yes, there are some very highly processed breads and breads where a lot of the goodness of the whole grain has been taken out. However, for me, I felt like I wanted to still be able to eat bread. And this was one of the ways of eating that I found that was going to enable me to do that. So yes, it might sound trivial, but that was one of the things that first drew me to the Starch Solution. And if I was to put what the Starch Solution is in very simple terms to me, basically my diet was going to be made up of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and then your beans, your legumes, and then also your herbs and spices and everything that you need to make your food flavorful. And to me, I really loved the simplicity of that. It made it so easy for me to go to the supermarket because I knew where I was going to focus my attention. And also, when I was just looking at the breadth and variety of the food that I was going to be able to eat, it made me feel like I was not going to be restricted. It made me feel like even if I didn't know how to cook those foods and make those foods taste good in the beginning, there was definitely going to be a way for me to learn how to do that, because there's just such a variety of food in your vegetables. I already knew that I loved fruit, and then being able to eat things like rice and potatoes that in my head had been like put on the back burner for so long, it really excited me that I was going to be able to begin to eat those foods again. And to be honest, at first I was a bit skeptical as to whether or not it was going to really be true that I could eat carbohydrates like rice and potatoes and things in the large quantities that I was seeing and still lose weight. But obviously, as I say in almost every one of my videos, the proof is in the pudding. You can look at the pictures of me when I was overweight, and you can look at the pictures of me now, and you can see that despite the fact that I have been eating bread eating potatoes, eating rice, I still have been able to move closer and closer to my body goals, and fat loss goals. So yes, essentially that was the framework that I was using. I was looking for vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, beans and legumes, and those were going to be the vast majority of my diet. Now, what I didn't explain, and what I think is important to explain, is the reason why being able to eat these foods, you are still able to eat them in quite large volumes and lose weight, is because these foods are low calorie density. Now, I have talked about low calorie density before, but I think what I haven't emphasized when I've been talking about low calorie density is that when you eat things like vegetables, so vegetables, most vegetables, you can eat about a pound of vegetables, you will only have consumed about 100 to 200 calories. So if you think about that, and you think about how much food a pound of food is, I mean, I think from my research, I can remember that, and I'll try and find the study so that I can put it in the description box. People generally tend to eat between 2 to 6 pounds of food. So depending on the person, they will typically eat a similar amount of pounds of food each day, and it's typically anywhere from 2 to 6 pounds. Now, I obviously had not measured how much pounds of food I ate a day, but I realized that if I could eat a pound of, even if I was eating 6 pounds, 6 pounds of food a day at the upper limit, if most of that food that I was eating was made up of vegetables, I was going to find it easier to lose weight, because my belly would become full with all these vegetables and I would still be able to stay well within my calorie deficit. However, I knew that I needed not only variety in my diet, but I needed my food to taste nice and be something that I looked forward to eating. So I knew that I wasn't going to be willing to just eat vegetables. But fruit was also on the menu. And I knew that the vast majority of fruit, you could eat about a pound of fruit for between sort of 200 to 400 calories. So I could add on to this large amount of vegetables that I was eating a large amount of fruit, because again, even if I was working in a calorie deficit, I knew that to fill up my stomach and have that feeling of fullness for the majority of the day, these foods were going to help me to eat in abundance, but still do that. So I had all these vegetables, because the vast majority of vegetables fit into this 100 to 200 per pound calorie load, and then all these fruits. And then what I found through doing my research, and what Dr. McDougall talks about in the Starch Solution, is that because fruits and vegetables are made up of a lot of water, there are many vegetables that are 80% water. It can be very difficult to get that feeling of fullness for very long, even though they have plenty of water and they have plenty of fiber. So what he suggests is that you then add your whole grains, your things like rice and potato and other whole grains, because those things contain a lot of fiber and they take longer to digest. So you have that feeling of fullness for longer. So when you put together the vegetables, the fruits, the whole grains, the beans have been found scientifically to keep you fuller for longer, and not only to keep you fuller for longer, but to even help you to decrease the amount of food you eat in your next meal. That's how filling they are. So when you put all these food groups together and you start mixing them and experimenting with them in meals, what you are finding is that you've created a situation, or what I found is that I was able to create a situation where I was able to eat a large volume of food, but know that because these foods were low calorie density and highly nutritious, I was creating a situation where I was fuller for longer. And being fuller for longer was helping me to more easily stay in my calorie deficit. And being able to more easily stay in my calorie deficit was helping me to steadily lose the weight and the fat that I was trying to lose. So that is a major part of sort of the way I was eating, how I was thinking about food, how I was trying to design my diet to fit me. And I wanted to share that with you because I feel like in the past, when I had been trying to diet, first of all, I was not fully understanding the concept of calorie density. So because of that, I was finding that it was very much a struggle to see consistent results. When I understood that I needed a calorie deficit to lose weight, I then was trying to think about how can I make it easier for myself to stay in a calorie deficit. And this is the way that I found the easiest to stay in a calorie deficit. I concentrated on whole, low calorie density foods. And because of that structure that I had, I knew every time that I went into the supermarket what I was looking for. And I was bit by bit trying to develop ways of making these foods really tasty and satisfying to myself. Because as I said, I did not come from a background of eating vegetables. And I ate fruit, but fruit was very occasional in my diet. My diet was mostly made up of high calorie density stews and mountains of seasoned rice, fried chips or things like that. So it was a big transition for me to make, but because I had that framework of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, that really helped me to make a plan for what I was going to do. And that plan is ever evolving. I'm still on my weight loss journey. I'm still learning. I'm still refining the way that I eat. And because it has truly been a journey, I've had my ups and my downs. I've had times where I felt frustrated with not having the cooking knowledge of how to cook these foods and really make them tasty for myself. I've had to be patient with myself. I've had to be patient with the process so that I can recognize that this is a lifestyle change. It's something that takes time and it's something that I need to persevere with. So what I want to leave you with today is it's so important for you to personalize whatever diet changes, whatever nutrition changes you make to yourself. The framework that I've just described of making sure that my diet was mainly made up of vegetables, fruits, and whole grains was something that I used to design the way that I was eating for myself. I obviously encourage you to look into that because I feel like it's been so beneficial to me, but I still want to emphasize that you need to find what is right for you. So if you've got anything useful from this video, please give me a like. If you want to keep hearing from me, please subscribe. And of course, if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments. So happy and thankful that you've watched this video. and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.